All right, everybody, here's what we're doing today. We are gonna do some mods on the bike. So I've already installed the first one. Unfortunately, I don't have my helper monkey to work the camera, so I'm going to show certain things and talk about it, and then put the camera down, and I'll come back and show the results, and we'll have to do it that way and, you know, kind of piece it all together. I don't have the my lovely assistant Sarah to help me this time. So first mod, Puig double bubble windscreen. So a little taller, looks a little better than stock. I go with the clear because I use this as my camera mount, and so I want to be able to have that behind the screen and be able to shoot through it while I'm on track and stuff. Keeps the wind noise at a minimum, as well as I can get all my telemetry off the dash, and I can see where I am on the track and what I'm doing and what was going on with the bike and all that kind of stuff. So and get that all in video. So to install this, screw, two on the other side, and then you can pull these rubber grommets off and put them onto the new screen. The biggest trick was honestly the stop. This one just slides right in. There's a notch up front, and it just slides in, and then it just anchors with these 4 screws. Very simple. The stock one has some clips and some other things. You basically just have to wrestle with it. You take out these screws. I also took off these 10mm nuts. There's 2 down there, and there's 2 up in here, so I could remove the mirrors and let them hang there, and that let me pull this out a little bit, gave me some extra slack. And then it was just a matter of separating the blue from the clear just by wiggling it around and pulling it up, and it just eventually just popped loose. Then I took the rubber grommets, inserted them into the new Puig screen, and then it was I didn't have to fuss around with any of that stuff. I just slid it in, put in the 4 screws, tighten them up, put the mirrors back on, and you're done. So getting the old one off is a little tricky. Putting the new one on is a snap, as illustrated by my snap. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna put on a set of Helibars. So, and then we've got GB Racing engine case covers that are gonna go on there. So for this, what we're gonna have to do is the Helibars are going to look stock. What I need to do is use my air compressor to take off this grip. That grip leave on because it's going to sit on that, whatchamacallit, in this assembly. You're going to need 8mm for that screw, those 2 screws, loosen them up nice and loose, but don't take them apart. You're going to have to take off the bar ends, and then basically just loosen everything so everything will basically slide off. Like I said, this grip here is going to slide off with that assembly. Don't worry about that. This grip, it has to be slipped off. I usually take it off with an air compressor, put the nozzle there, and when you hit it with the compressed air, it balloons it slightly and it comes right off. After you do that, we're going to take off this. I guess that I can do while we're talking here. I do have one hand free for that. So I'll take out my camera mount, put that aside. We're going to need, I think that's a 32 or a 36, I forget which, but we're going to take that off. We're going to loosen the pinch bolt on here. There's one over there. We're going to loosen those 2 bolts. And then we're going to loosen the pinch bolt for right there. There's one on each side for the clip-on itself. Okay? So I'll come back in a minute once I've got the top off. When you do this, use this type of front stand. I mean, you might be able to do it with on the ground. I feel like if there's pressure on the tire and it's holding the weight of the bike on the suspension, when you take that top cover off, the top of the triple clamp here, if those things move even like a 0.5 millimeter, you may end up having, you may end up having your forks tweak just a little bit, and then it may be hard to get this on. So I take the weight off the suspension so it's completely unloaded by using that type that has the pin that goes up underneath. So yeah, so we're going to take that off, that nut, loosen those, take those off, loosen those pinch bolts. That'll allow this to pop off. And what I'm going to do is put a rag over this, over my dash, so I can kind of move this metal part up and out of the way, and that way nothing will scratch the dash. I'm also, before I start working, going to lay my lightweight jacket over there, over the tank, so that as I'm doing anything, I don't slip with something and ding the paint on the tank. So once I've got this off, I'll come back, we'll start the video back up, show you what we're doing. And what I'm probably going to try to do is take and put 1 clip on of the Helibars on one side, and then leave the other one on. And that way you'll be able to see how the angle changed and get an idea of how much it's going to change things. So Stay tuned, we'll be back in a minute. All right, so we're back. Here's what we got so far. Use the air compressor to get this off. Oh, and when you do that, I don't put it back on with grip glue. I find that if you clean the inside of the grip with brake cleaner, so there's no oil, there's no residue, nothing in there, and you use the air compressor method to slide it on, it never really moves. When you put grip glue on, it's great until you do put enough pressure on it one day, and when you do twist it and you break the bond of the grip, of the glue then kind of balls up and it creates air gaps in there, and then the thing slides all over the place. So it's good, it works well until it doesn't, and then you gotta, when I just put them on bone dry, I don't have any problem with the grips twisting. So anyway, let's see. So I've loosened this, remove that from that. All this stuff is all loose, that's loose, bar ends are out, grip is off. But one thing I forgot to do real quick is loosen this thing right here. So as soon as I do that, I'm gonna take, these will be able to be slid off. I can now start to wiggle this loose. I've loosened that pinch bolt, and taken off the center nut. But you see now that's starting to wiggle. I'm gonna do this off camera so I can use two hands because I need to make sure I do it evenly. I don't wanna nick anything or scratch anything. But just wiggle that up till it comes out of the way. I'm gonna put some paper towels up here to cover the dashboard and just move this up out of the way. And that's gonna give me access to the tops of these. And all I have to do is just loosen that nut right there, and this thing will slide up and off. And then you bring it up and slide it out and away from these. And then you're gonna slide the new one in through the holes here and then onto there. So I'm gonna do that and get that one, the new one, the Helibar, on this side, and I'm going to leave that one intact. I have not loosened that pinch bolt, so when I move this up, it's going to stay in place, the original position, and then you can see the difference in the angles. So we'll be back in just a minute for that. Okay, so here's where we're at. This is the Helibar. Here is the stock bar. So I don't know that this is in its final resting place. Still got to put the bar in, still got to adjust, you know, my clutch lever and things like that. But I think it's pretty close. If I turn the bar all the way, it comes in, doesn't hit. Comes about as close as the stock bar. But if I go all the way the other way, it just misses that. So I think that's within a millimeter or two of where I'm gonna want it. So I don't know if you can see it from this angle. What I like about this is it looks stock, the cables, everything matches, it's pre-drilled, so this locked right into place. These are gonna do the same. You don't have to do anything as far as getting different cables and rearranging. Like when I did the lower bar on that, I had to reroute the clutch or the throttle cables and stuff. This is gonna drop right in. So I put this on just so you get a sense of how it will look. But yeah, so what it's doing is it's out here. I mean, if you look at that angle, you'll just see how this just dips down. And when it dips down, it makes your wrist go at kind of a wonky angle. And see that little bend there, that crease? Right. Again, I'm trying to do this with one hand. That's where my wrist hurts. Here, my wrist is going to be more natural and straight. While still being low and forward, I mean, it's still a full-on clip-ons. It's just a little bit more humane. So, unfortunately, I am not going to get it. By the time I get this done and get the engine case covers on, we've got 3 or 4 days of really heavy rains, potential tornadoes coming in, so I am not going to be able to go and do a test ride on this until next week. But I'll get this all done. I'm going to do the other one, get it all adjusted, get it back together, and then I'll try to sit on it and show you what it looks like and all that stuff. And then we'll get into the RNG racing case covers and stuff. So, but that's the difference in the angle. It doesn't look like a lot, but if you're here and sitting where I'm sitting, it's about, I think they said it's 3/4 of an inch wider from tip to tip. And it's like where your hand is, not up here, but because of the angle here, your hand is about an inch higher and about an inch back. And so it's not like going to risers and you got, you know, a goofy handlebar, you know, like you'd have on a naked sport bike. They're clip-ons. They're just not as extreme. You're going from your wrist being down and tilted at a weird angle to being more at a natural straight angle. So that's what we're going for. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side and then get it all buttoned back up, get my bar ends back in, and then we'll be joined. So stay tuned. All right, people. we are installed. Got the bar ends back on, got my levers adjusted. So far, I mean, it's a clean install. They give you new inserts for these bar ends. They're not threaded like the ZX6R out of soft aluminum where you're gonna, you know, strip it really easy like we did. Everything lines up pretty nice. I will say the only thing is I'm limited in how much I can adjust the positions of the levers because it's hitting one of the corners down here. Now, I don't know if I could modify that or move that or, you know, maybe monkey around. But to be fair, I never touched the stock positions on the stock bars, so I don't know what the limitations were there. So, however, it is where I'm pretty happy with it, so not really an issue. Everything lines up right. Everything is all tightened up. There's 2 pinch bolts here that you had to tighten once you slid everything on. What was also cool is that these bolts here were they went down into the stock clip-ons, and that helped orient it as far as the angle. It was fixed. It was one position. You could only have it there, and that kind of locked it in place. But so that you didn't have 2 holes in the triple clamp, they gave you 2 nuts, one for each, so you could, you know, make it look stock. And that's the thing, unless you had another R1 sitting next to this one to look at it, the bar is the same color, same metal as the stock one. Everything lines up and fits and is drilled properly. It's just changing the end of the bar, not so much up here because it mounts to the same part, but just the angle that bar is welded onto the clamp. It just changed it so that this end right here, instead of being down here somewhere, is up. My hand went from this to that. So now my wrist is pretty much straight. Everything's an easy reach. I'm not quite as hunched over, but it's still aggressive. Like, you wouldn't get on this and go, oh, it doesn't feel like a sport bike, you know? So unfortunately the clouds are moving in. It's starting to get dark out. There's no way I'm gonna be able to go test this. The roads are already wet and we're about to get hella thunderstorms for a few days. So I guess I will use my remaining times. I'm gonna go crack open the box of RNG, the case covers, and we're gonna start putting those on. So those should be pretty easy. I am guessing it's just gonna be a matter of taking out a couple of the bolts, putting the thing on, and then replacing it with probably slightly longer bolts that it ships with. So there's one for this, and then there's one for the stator cover over here. So I don't think I need to kind of show you how to do that. I mean, they're pretty much self-explanatory. You can see which ones are going to be, you know, when you're looking at the package, it'll show you which bolts get replaced, and you're just going to pop out probably like every other bolt, so you don't have to worry about changing seals or anything or it leaking. You put the cover on, and then you're just going to put in the bolts that they supply that are probably just a tiny bit longer and torque them down, and that's going to be it. So I'll go ahead and install these, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like all buttoned up. But this is probably going to be awesome. It was on any other bike I've ever used the Helibars on. The double bubble should give me just a little more wind protection, so that'll be good. Also, I think it looks a little nicer. But you wouldn't look at it and think that anything's been done to the bars. I'm able to go lock to lock. You know, let me do it on the bike. So all the way in, nothing touches. All the way up, doesn't touch. Same thing here, all the way to the right, nothing touches. All the way up. It's only a millimeter of a gap, but there is a gap, so nothing touches. My knuckles don't hit, they're all outside. I've seen some where it's a little bit inside, so when you do go forward, it's like, yeah, the bar doesn't hit, but then your hand actually does. But here, my hand is outside. On the other side, same thing, nothing is up in there. So this should make a noticeable improvement for my wrists. So let's get the covers on, and we'll be back in a few. All right. Temporary setback on installing my RNG crash protection, because it seems that Yamaha was jealous of Ducati being the annoying manufacturer that uses non-standard parts, nuts, bolts, tools for common things that you need to do on your bike from time to time, and they wanted to be a little more exclusive like Ducati. So instead of using like regular nuts and bolts, I don't know what the hell these are. I don't know what size, maybe 10 millimeter 12-point socket. I don't know. I have to go buy a new socket or something. So I'm hoping somebody knows what size and type that is. But apparently I need to go buy a new tool, and then I can remove these 2 bolts and that bolt, and then the new cover goes on with the new bolts, which of course use the right style, normal style, which means they're not going to match, but whatever. I don't know why Yamaha does dumb stuff like that, but like I said, normally it's Ducati and Aprilia and the Italian ones that are like, oh, just use a disc, and they'll just pick something weird and uncommon just because they can. So apparently now Yamaha's doing that. So we'll have to make a separate video for that, but I'll get this other stuff up on the other two mods, and can't wait to get out on the road and try it out. Anyway, that's what we got for now.